Welcome to Like a Bomb, a podcast about powerful women from the past and present.
Not fragile like a flower.
Fragile like a bomb. Alright, welcome to episode 4 of Like a Bomb.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah.
It does release at 6 a.m. Eastern, so yeah.
Yeah. 6 a.m. Eastern. I'll be on my way to work. That'll be okay.
I will still be asleep.
Yeah. That hour difference is just, it's a lot and a little and weird. I still haven't gotten used to it.
It was very weird processing the time difference when I was in Washington a couple weeks ago.
I don't think I could get used to, well, I mean, you guess you get used to it because time is relative, but
Yeah.
it would take me so long to get used to, because that's 3 hours, right? 3 hours?
Yes, 3 hours Pacific versus Eastern.
Yeah, your 1 hour I struggle with. I'm
Yup.
hungry when I'm not supposed to be hungry, and it's only an hour off.
Ooh, I had some key lime pie with as my dessert for dinner.
Oh, nice. Bought a blueberry pie last week from Lidl. It was actually pretty good.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, gotta love the blueberry pie.
Yeah. Oh, you know how I came home from a going away party at, past 2 a.m. this past weekend?
Yeah.
Well, we may have to have another going away party for another friend
Oh,
because her job is kind of dissolving their location here in town. So she's gonna be like 4 hours away, possibly.
oh. Well, at least there's a job. That's
Yes,
good.
and there's a sign-on bonus for the new position and, money for moving, but still, that's away from
Mhm.
all of us.
Yeah, that's a good distance away, but at least there's a job, so that's an upside. Sign on bonus. Wow. What would
Yes.
that be? Geez, moving expense? I won't even get a stamp. I can't, I mean, wow.
Don't
That's
you
good
love
though.
being a teacher?
I do. I love my children.
I know you love the job, but also the pay is garbage and the hours for you.
Yeah, the pay. And if I were to work in the county I'm living in now, it would be $8,000 less than where the county is I'm currently working, which my job is an hour from me. But
Yeah.
still, even with gas and everything, it's going to be less of a difference. But that's okay. You know, it's okay.
Isn't adulting so much fun?
It is. But I can have cake for breakfast, and that is the biggest plus of being an adult.
I mean, my 18th birthday, we got ice cream for breakfast.
I mean, I see these things as wins. I mean, I have to pay for the cake and ice cream, but I get to eat them for breakfast, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and then you have to worry about actually taking care of your diet and cavities if you eat too many sweets.
There is that. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, on an upside, what story you got to tell me?
So, remember last time? It's not even last week when we recorded. Last episode, I was talking about the sedentary pad belt and like kind of the history of pads.
Yep.
Well, this time it's much shorter. There's not a lot to it, but I'm going to be talking about the menstrual cup, so like the Diva cup or other
Oh,
brands and things.
okay.
And the person who pretty much is named as the inventor for the first usable and modern menstrual cup. Um,
They're a diva?
oh, huh?
I said they're a diva.
No, the Diva
Sorry.
cup I think is just a company because
Yeah.
I got one free from school because they sent out an email like, "Hey, come to the student union and sign up and come get a free, like menstrual cup, Diva cup." And I'm like, I'll probably never use it, but that saves a lot of money in the long term and things, and I still have
Yeah.
never used it. But Leona Chalmers is an American actress and writer who invented the first usable and available modern menstrual cup.
Oh,
She was also, as said, an actress, an author who wrote the book The Intimate Side of a Woman's Life. Now, I've not looked into the book. Most of everything is just the menstrual cup. So I know nothing of what that book is about besides the title.
well, there's a lot of things on the girl side, so.
Yeah. Now, I'm just using Wikipedia because all the other things don't quite have as much details. There's
Okay.
slight discrepancy of when she was born. So she was born either late 1800s or early 1900s, at least according to Wikipedia. And so she invented the menstrual cup out of a passion for bettering women's sexual health. And she created this first version in 1937, shortly after the
Wow.
invention of the tampon. She did so because she wanted to create a reusable menstrual product to compete with the existing disposable products on the market. Her invention was originally made out of vulcanized rubber and was considered to be more comfortable and discreet alternative to the existing menstrual cup-like option. Everything is made out of the supposedly medical grade silicone stuff now. So we definitely changed a few things. So she sought out to make it easier to have the cups and everything because previous cup-like devices were supposedly medieval and quite mechanical.
Oh.
Um, Such as, I'm going to butcher this, the cadmial sack, which was patented in the 1860s, but that never made it to market due to low interest. And so she wanted something that was more comfortable and easier to use and reusable, unlike the pads and tampons already out in the market.
So
So,
environment saving. That sounds good.
yeah, eventually, Chalmers' product, the menstrual cup of her design, went to market, but it wasn't successful because tampons and pads were already seen as comfortable. Um, Women were comfortable with the mechanics of the tampon, and then learning how to use a new product was something the women at the time really weren't looking into, which is fair because I also hate tampons and don't really want to try the menstrual cup.
Yeah.
It also doesn't help. There was a huge stigma around period blood at the time. There still is, but even then, it's back especially. And that led to a lot of women not wanting to insert the device and having to handle the period blood in the way a cup requires one to. Another issue that made the menstrual cup not quite as popular until more recent times was there was a rubber shortage during World War II that caused the stop of the production of Chalmers' menstrual cup. During this time, she redesigned it and patented an updated design in the early 1950s. She eventually sold the patent to the company that bought it and struggled to make it a success because of restriction of marketing of the words vagina and menstruation, which were illegal to use at the time.
Yeah.
And so the product was eventually discontinued, and new iterations were introduced in the early 1990s. The cup's impact on society has been large, as it proves a longer lasting, sustainable alternative to disposable pads and tampons. But it's still not as popular, but it is definitely gaining um, as people choose to use its benefits to the environment. Um, one menstrual cup is equivalent to 2,800 tampons, and you can have it in longer than a tampon. Not
Mm,
to mention, your risk of toxic shock syndrome is greatly reduced.
well, that's good.
Yes. So that's kind of obviously mostly the menstrual cup, but some of the things that Leona Chalmers put towards bettering women's health and menstrual health products. So a little bit more on the menstrual cups. They come in two types. There's the older type, which is bell shape, often with a stem. It's kind of what you usually think of when you think of these. They're kind of taller little cups with little stem to pull out.
Yeah.
And then there's it describes it as a springy rim that attached to the rim is a bowl with thin, flexible walls. So they're kind of very different. There's no good description apparently of the second type, but yeah, they're both cups. So you can wear it up to about 12 hours, and after each period it requires cleaning. Unfortunately, you gotta boil it, which makes it a lot harder. The cups can be reusable up for 10 years for some of them,
Wow.
so that makes them hugely beneficial.
I mean, That saves a ton of money right
Yes.
there. And the environment.
Yes, it does. The only problem is they're more awkward to use than a tampon because it's much harder to, go to the bathroom and rinse it out in the sink or anything because you have
Yeah.
stalls and then everyone there with the sinks and things. So it's much more awkward and taboo and things. That doesn't help.
Yeah, that would be. There is some, technical difficulties that would arise using it, especially if, you can't do it all at home. That would definitely
Yes.
be a weird, awkward situation because, I mean, most people don't even like to pee in public, much less do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, I'm completely with you. I, I'll hold it if I can. But But the amount of savings that it would be, I didn't realize 10 years. That's
It
a.
depends on the brand and stuff, but like the silicone and whatnot used makes it just more durable. The one I have is decently thick. It's not it's more the bell, the taller one with the stem, versus
Uh-huh.
the like weirdly like bowl. Because that's the best way I'm gonna describe. You got the bell and you got the bowl, and usually you think of the bell. Yeah, and there's slightly different sizes and materials. So there's apparently latex ones. So there's the silicone rubber, which is most brands.
Yeah, a lot of people have latex allergies nowadays.
Yeah, but most of them are the silicone rubber. But yeah, no, there's not much to the menstrual cup. They're kind of still a new-ish thing. Like obviously they've been around for over 100 years, but there's been a constant taboo about them. And Leona Chalmers helped try and reduce it, but then words like vagina and menstruation were taboo and couldn't be published to try and market it. But thankfully, with nowadays, one, the cost of pads and tampons being crazy, and two, a lot more focus on the environment and, sustainability for your period, they've gained popularity.
Well, I mean, until something is like the problem is people also don't like change. It's not
No,
even the
and it's
awkwardness, people don't like change.
yeah, it's very different. Whereas you
Yes.
have to clean this regularly, and a tampon, which is the most direct example, you can just throw it away.
Yeah. And less things to deal with and people, you know, I'm lazy. I'm going to do the easiest option generally. I'll
Mm-hmm.
admit it.
Not
I
to
mean, I can
mention, you
understand that.
probably have to like have a special pot to boil it after every period.
Yeah, you're not going to want to make your like pasta in the same pot.
No, I
I
wouldn't want
mean,
to.
no, it would
So
be
that's an
like,
extra cost, which is considerably not much if you buy like a cheap little pot.
yes, but then you'd have to let anybody know who cooks at your house that they can't. What do you do? Hide the pot under your bed? Okay, that
Decorate it
sounded weird.
funny, be like, this is my period pot.
Yep. I guess that's an option.
You
I don't
never
know.
know.
I can see that now. Grammy, don't use that one. That's what I boil my blood container in. Yep, she would run screaming.
Yeah, she would be very appalled.
Yes, but I would have a video running at the time just to see her expression because it
Ah,
would be funny.
perfect.
It would be definitely hilarious. Well, that's cool because I did not realize they've been around. I didn't even realize that they were even out on the market in the 90s.
Yeah, the more you know, I thought they were a pretty new thing as well.
Yeah.
But nope, they're pretty decently old and pretty useful,
Yeah.
just different.
Yep. And some of us stick with what. I mean, I again, like I've already said, I'm covered till menopause. So, I mean, I'm good. But
I am not. I would hope.
I mean, yeah, you should have quite some time till then. But I mean, I don't know. There's our bodies are all the world is changing. Who knows?
We all have microplastics in our system.
Yeah, that's cool. I really didn't realize how long that's been around. Wow.
Oh,
See, you
I'm glad
learn something new
I
every
surprised you
day.
and impressed it with the story.
Yeah, cool. Are you ready for mine?
Yeah.
Okay, mine, I'm going to butcher a bunch of names. I did Google and, trust that they told me how to pronounce it, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to mess it up. And if I haven't said this before on the podcast, I have a speech impediment and I'm from the South. So I try, I Google, I write it phonetically, I do my best. But sometimes things are going to just come out my mouth that I did not expect in any way. Oh, and while I'm thinking about it, apparently in episode 2, you can hear one of my little monsters crying to get in because when I go on the other side of a closed door, usually my little Finny, who is a cat, does not like it and he cries. So apparently it was able to be heard. I apologize. I didn't hear it, but that's probably because whenever I close the door, he cries at me.
Because he's a big baby. And
Yes.
also, back to your the speaking ability. Um, because I have ADHD officially diagnosed now. It could also be that where your brain and mouth don't match in the same way, since there is possible genetic links.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's that too, but I do have a speech impediment, and that is
Yes.
also documented. So, and that's just been a lifelong thing. Okay, so I am going to speak about, again, scared I'm going to mess up everybody's name. Malala Yousafzai. Mahala is actually, she was named after an Afghan heroine who had led a victory over the British in 1880 in the Battle of my word. Again, please, let me know. Email me, let me know how to pronounce it if I'm saying it wrong. Did Google, did phonetics. Okay, so this lovely lady, if you don't know, she actually won a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah.
And we're going to go from chronological, like I like to do. So she was born in 1997, which is a really long time ago, but doesn't feel like it was that long ago. July 12th in Mingora, the Swat Valley of Pakistan. So her mother was, she was a very devout and religious. And being the culture that she was growing up in, she just stopped getting a formal education at age 6. Is what I read. It said 6 most of the time. But all the things you're going to hear that happened to her daughter and they went through in Pakistan, she did end up going back to school in her 40s and learned how to read and write. So, and her father was an educator and social activist. He founded and ran a local school for the girls, and she attended there. And apparently, when she was a little tiny kid, when she couldn't even talk, she would just like walk into classrooms and wander around the school. And
Oh.
her dad believed that she should have every opportunity that boys did, regardless of the society norms. So she, definitely was very supportive of girls. I mean, he ran and founded a girls' school. So she was the oldest of 3 kids. She has 2 younger brothers. And we're just going to jump right in. In 2007, which she was only 10 years old, what was called, and it's referred to as the Pakistani Taliban, they called them the TTP. So they invaded and took control of the Swat Valley. There were suicide bombings. They banned and enforced with extreme punishments, owning a TV, playing music, dancing. Girls were not allowed to attend school, which became like the cornerstone of like their terror campaign. And females were not allowed to have active social roles. So the following year, her dad took her to a press club, and basically her dad, seeing that he was, socially believed and was active in basically condemning the Taliban from saying, hey, girls can't go to school. He's like, no, they can. I built a school for them. And so he completely supported, and he took his daughter to this press club, and she gave her first speech protesting schools closing. And it was called, How Dare the Taliban Take Away My Basic Right to Education. This speech was also publicized throughout Pakistan. TV, radio. So it wasn't like she was hiding and she just did it at the press club. Like she was full out there and it was being transmitted and recorded to the whole country. By
That's
the end,
scary.
yeah, like, and she is only 11. So, yeah. And by the end of 2008, 400 schools were destroyed. And the Taliban actually said that by the end of 2008, beginning of 2009, they will have destroyed all girls' schools. So the following year, which was 2009, she is only 12 years old. I feel like the last story, too, I was like, wow, look at all they've done by the time they're 13. So the BBC reached out to her father and said, hey, do you know anybody who would like to blog and tell what it's like to live underneath the Taliban rule? And he's like, well, of course, my daughter would. So she started blogging, and it was through BBC, but it was in the official language for Pakistan. So, and I know I'm sure it's been translated, but originally it was to Pakistan. And they just wanted somebody to describe what it's like to live under that. And so she started doing daily blogs, and she published 35 entries between January and March. She did run her everything underneath a pseudonym so that to protect her identity. However, of course, people found out who she was. And she just wrote about what it was like every day to live under the terror. So she also had her first TV appearance. She made 2 documentaries with a New York reporter. The first one was called Class Dismissed. And if you Google it, you have to be very careful to also include her name because there's apparently a couple of documentaries with the same name.
Okay.
And she did one that was called A Schoolgirl's Odyssey. So that was done with a New York reporter. They posted it in the New York Times website. And this is 2009, and she is only 12 years old. And so she is publicly like broadcasting anywhere she can to say, this is wrong. This is not okay. We all deserve a right to education. Okay. She is 12 years old.
That's a
So,
lot.
yeah. By the time she's 14, she has done years of public campaigning for a girls' right to education. She was nominated for an International Children's Peace Prize. She was awarded the Pakistan's National Youth Peace Prize. So currently at the time, she is still able to go to school. She has still been able to go to school. So in 2012, on her way home from school on a bus, 2 Taliban gunmen stopped the bus and then started going through the bus looking for her by name. And by the time they found out who she was, she was shot. One of the shots went through her head and then went into her shoulder. And she ended up having to be flown all the way to England to get extra heavy medical treatment. Also, it was also for protection, but she was in a medically induced coma for a little while. And then when they woke her up, she had to have multiple surgeries. Half of her face was paralyzed, but she did not have any major brain damage, which you were shot in the head.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yes. And so it says, and I tried looking up to understand what it was. It said a fatwa was issued against her. And so I looked up a whole bunch of definitions. I tried to understand what it said. This is the most condensed one is it's like a legal decree, or it can just also just be an opinion, but it's coming from an Islamic religious leader. But it's also not binding. So basically it's like saying, hey, that person did that over there. We don't agree with it because it goes against this Islamic rule. And this is why. But I don't understand how that's something against. So I looked up a bunch of stuff and it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. However, basically, I think it was just saying this person is against us. This is why they're against us. They want girls. She wants girls to go to school. She wants everybody to have an equal education. And we just think that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I read it as. She became internationally known. At this point, she was shot. She was
Yeah, I
shot.
remember that happening.
Yeah, and she was 15 years old. So, and she was shot for standing up for what we consider, like, if I were to say this to my students, like, this little girl, like, at 10 and 11 was speaking out against the Taliban because she wanted to go to school, my kids would be like, why? So,
I
I mean, some
mean,
of,
I would have been like that. Remember how many
yes.
times you had to try and convince me to stay home when I was sick?
Yeah, I know. You were had pneumonia and were given narcotics, and you're like, I'm going to school. I'm like, okay. So, I mean, I get it. Just, it's like crazy when you think about the relativity of like what's happening here and our just basic understanding that when we are 5 years old at the latest, we're going to school and we're there until we're done.
Mhm.
Um, and we take that very much for granted. So, of course, she became internationally known and was a symbol for the fight for girls' education. The Pakistani president did a $10 million education fund in her name and honor. Uh, I don't know if that's like on top of what they normally give education, or if just they don't really, federal government doesn't give much education. Um, I'm a teacher. I can tell you how little money is happening in education here. So there was a bill in 2010, and it was called the Pakistan's First Right to Free and Compulsory Education Bill, and that came through in 2010. Okay. So it was basically saying everybody has a right to education between 5 and 16. So,
Mhm.
and then after all this stuff, she was shot, all this, she's fighting. She's not the only one fighting with, her dad is fighting with her too, but there's other people throughout the country. But they took that original bill and they expanded on it. And I actually have it and I'll send it to you. Um, you can see the different changes in what's been ratified. Part of it, it's just like extending just the locations, like it broadened the parts of Pakistan that also were included in the bill and who had to, it was supposed to be enforced and kids could go to school.
Yeah.
So there was an original one in 2010, but it was ratified in 2012. So by the time she's 16 and it's 2013, she is now in school in England because she's just recovered from a gunshot while living in England. So Time magazine named her one of the 100 most influential people in the world. On her 16th birthday, she was in New York speaking to the United Nations, and she was just asking for girls around the world to have equal rights to an education. Because it's crazy to think in the 2000s, that was like we're supposed to have flying cars, so of course everybody should be getting an education. um, she co-founded the Malala Fund with her father, and it does still exist, to bring awareness to social and economical impacts of girls' education and also to empower girls to fight for change. I mean, I can't imagine growing up in that way, but to still be willing to stand up and
Yeah,
risk
that's
your
an
life.
impressive drive.
Yeah. Like risk your life to learn algebra. Like it, that's just impressive. Um, so they funding projects in 6 countries at the time. She published her first book. She's 16 years old, 2013. Um, I Am Mahala, the girl who stood up to the education and was shot by the Taliban. And when I did look for the like documentaries, you can see them on YouTube. So all of these things are out there. You just have to Google them. Awarded the European Parliament award for freedom of thought. She was awarded the Liberty Medal in Pennsylvania. By the National Constitution Center, and she was the youngest person to win. So she hasn't even gotten her Nobel Peace Prize at this point. Like, she's been shot, she's done all these things, she's still fighting, and she is 17 years old now, and she has traveled to Jordan to meet with I don't know why my brain just went blank. Syrian refugees. She went to Kenya and met with young female students. She went to northern Nigeria and she spoke against terrorists that had kidnapped girls just to keep them from going to school. She was now awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, and she was the youngest person to win at the time at 17. She did share the award with an Indian activist. They were both being recognized for their efforts on behalf of children's rights. And I looked him up, and he's done a lot to help the rights of children. But
I would
story's
hope
not a
so since he got the Nobel Peace Prize for it.
yeah. You're funny. You're funny. So, and when she got her award, you can actually look up her speech when she got the award. I actually found it. There's a whole website. I mean, I guess I assumed that there was a whole website for the Nobel Peace Prize winners and things, but I never actually went there before until now. But part of what she said, this award is not just for me. It is for those forgotten children who want education. It is for those frightened children who want peace. It is for those voiceless children who want change. So she's fighting because she wants to go to school, but she's continuing to fight because it's not okay. The world needs to evolve and change in some places because education is how you arm yourself and how you
Mm-hmm.
prepare yourself. And it teaches you so many things about just life. Like, I am learning how to build, do hydroponics. And the idea is to make it sustainable to help produce food for communities that maybe can't have a garden and things like that. And I wouldn't be able to do that if somebody didn't sit down and help teach me.
Mm-hmm.
So she did another documentary at 18 in 2015. He Named Me Manhala. And that is you can find that on Amazon. You can rent it on Amazon, Apple TV, Google Play, Fandango. Which I didn't know that was an option. I guess you can go to the movies in your living room.
Guess so.
Um, she opened a girls' school in Lebanon for refugees. So in 2017, she became named the United Nations Messenger of Peace. I was impressed by this one. I mean, granted, I'm impressed by everything else, but she graduated from Oxford
Oh, that's a big school. It's a very pretty university too.
with degrees in philosophy, politics, and economics.
Ah, triple
And
major.
she, and
Fun.
she graduated in 2020 when the world was crazy. Like,
Yeah.
all those things together, whoa.
College then was not fun.
No, I just can't even imagine. In 2021, she partnered with Apple to create programming to inspire people. And then she married her husband. So she has helped produce uh, documentaries. She's done, she's been to the Oscars. She's done a lot, and she's continuing to work with her foundations, and she gives money. She's been giving money to anything that comes up that she feels like she can help. If she's not, she's down there like boots on the ground doing it. So she's still very, very active. She currently lives in England with her husband, and is, just thriving after everything she's been through. But that's like, I can't even imagine at 11 years old standing up and saying, no, you people with scary guns, I'm going to school. And we're going to make sure that everybody in the world is able to have an education. It was super impressive.
I mean, it's impressive that she got shot. And not even just the health miracle of it and coming through it plenty fine enough. It's the fact that she still continued,
Mm-hmm.
because there is the many people where that fire is extinguished. But
Oh,
then she's one of the
absolutely.
people where that fire got a lot more fuel.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if you'd have to shoot me for me to sit down, depending on the situation. If it was for the two of you, oh, come on, bring it. But I don't know if I would have the nerve, because I just don't have. I don't know that I would have that in me to fight if it was affecting me initially, but if it was going to affect you, which education would, so I would. I mean, that's absolutely something. But
Yeah.
to be 11 years old and be like, oh no, I'm taking you down. When I was 11 years old, whoa, so a different world.
Yeah. 11-year-old me was very different.
Yeah. I was 11 in the 80s. This is a whole crazy world. But I thought that was a story that needed to be told. So
Yes, her story is definitely a powerful one. Granted, many of the ones we've told so far are. That's why we're telling
that's why we're
them.
here. Yeah, and it makes me want to go out and do more things. They inspire me to want to do things
Yes.
to make the world a better place. More than just teach kids math. Like I'm not going to say I'm going to stop doing that, but what else can I do to make the world a little bit better?
There's lots of things, but sometimes it's very hard because you have to have a prominent enough voice.
Yeah. Well, on that note, go do something extraordinary.